Hello and welcome to this episode of the podcast. My name is Tom and today I'm joined by my co-host Davy.
Hi Tom and Tim.
And today we're also joined by Tim Leonard and we'll be discussing the Humphry Davy project and finding out more about the library's role in developing this project.
Hello Tom and Abby, and hello everyone listening to this. Yeah, my name's Tim and I'm an Associate Director here at Lancaster University Library and I'm delighted to be on the podcast.
Just to get us going, can you please explain what is the Davy Notebook Project?
The Davy Notebooks Project was a 4-year arts and humanities funded research project led by Professor Sharon Ruston here at Lancaster University. And it involves a group of researchers from Lancaster, from UCL and from the University of Manchester to work on digitising, transcribing and annotating the notebooks of the 19th century chemist Sir Humphry Davy. Davy's perhaps best known as the most famous chemist of the 19th century, and he's well known for his work on nitrous oxide or laughing gas. He also isolated a range of other elements for the first time, including potassium, sodium and magnesium, and he's also really well known for the development of a safety lamp for miners, which is known as the Davy lamp. So he's a really big figure in science in the 19th century. But also his notebooks, which were held at the Royal Institution in London, also over sort of 90 notebooks, which contain details of his scientific experiments, which you'd expect, but also poetry, geological observations, travel notes, like he travelled all over Europe in the time, so he captured details of all of his sort of journeys and meeting lots of sort of famous names from the 19th century. So they're a really, really important historical document capturing sort of his life, but also the life of kind of academia in the 19th century. And a lot of those insights are really unique to that collection of notebooks. Now, as I said, those had been held at the Royal Institution in London. Many of them had never been transcribed before, so there was no way of accessing those notebooks unless you visited the Royal Institution in person. The project was set up to basically, to digitise them, to transcribe them, to bring them to a wider audience, and also to analyse and understand his writings and understand more about him and his life and the work that he was engaged with. It was a citizen science project, so the researchers, like I say, at Lancaster and those other universities, worked with a wide range of volunteers, and in the end, over 3,800 volunteers were involved globally. Via a platform called Zooniverse, where they basically just put out a public call for volunteers to help to do this work, to transcribe the material, and it's just had a huge sort of worldwide response. So that was sort of an outcome of the project in itself, was just doing the work to transcribe the content using the sort of that citizen science model, but also some of the other stuff that's emerged from the project is. There were a range of public workshops took place, both here in Lancaster and across the country, to engage sort of people with Davy's work. When the collection launched online, I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. There have been talks here in Lancaster and at the Royal Institution, and it got like sort of worldwide press coverage. There's also been a whole range of teaching materials produced as part of the project for school children to learn more about Humphry Davy and his work and the notebooks. But I think one of the key sort of outcomes from the project, which we've been involved with, is the fact that those notebooks are now available online. So those sit on the library's Lancaster Digital Collections platform, which is a digital collections platform. The clue is in the name. That was launched a few years ago, and we've got a range of different collections on there. The Davy notebooks are on there now, and it's great to have those out in the open, available to anyone who wants to explore them, and they're available in really high resolution images. When you go into them, you can sort of you can search through the text because they're transcribed, and a lot of the handwriting is really hard to read because it's that really sort of 19th century script, and they were his personal notebooks as well. So they were often, many of them were really only intended for his sort of reading. So as a result of them being digitised and transcribed and annotated, there's loads of notes on the platform about various sort of things that are mentioned in notebooks to sort of help you understand more about them. So it's been great to be a part of the project and to make that content available to the world.
But can you go in a bit into how the library contributed towards the project?
Yeah, sure thing. So the library was involved like really early on in the project. I've only been involved in the last couple of years. I wasn't here at Lancaster when the project was initiated, but yeah, other colleagues in the library were involved like really from the beginning of it. And we provided expertise in terms of the content, in terms of the cataloguing of that digital content and the metadata. So we provided guidance around that, around kind of standards and approaches that we should be taking. We were also really involved in terms of copyright and the agreement with the Royal Institution, because that's the thing. We don't actually have these materials here at Lancaster. We're hosting the digital content, but the physical items are still there at the Royal Institution in London. So there needed to be an agreement around that, and that was something which the researchers were kind of looking for expertise around copyright and sort of fair use and those sorts of things. So that was an area in which we were able to feed in and provide guidance there. And then I think probably the biggest aspect of it has been the technical aspects of the content was digitised by the Royal Institution in London, so they actually scanned and produced those copies, but then getting that into our platform along with the transcription, so it links up so that when you're looking at the image on the page, you're reading the relevant words, and also the annotation, so the fact that those transcriptions, you can kind of click on terms and get further information. That there needed to be a lot of work done to actually enable that. The transcription, as I said before, was a lot of that was done by the researchers and by the volunteers in the project, but then they produced like certain sort of outputs that then needed to be transformed into a format that would work with our platform. So yeah, colleagues in the library team were sort of key to that really, to actually making sure we can put it in a format which enables us to sort of share it with the world now.
You mentioned quite a bit about the role of the library team there. Can you tell us a bit about how the team collaborated with other members of the library and with members of the university beyond the library as well?
Yeah, sure thing. So it was very much a team approach. As I said, with just some of the things I've mentioned in terms of the expertise that we had to sort of feed into this project around the content itself and metadata and the technical aspects and copyright. It required that sort of team approach. So yeah, colleagues were involved across a range of library teams. So our content team, our special collections team, and our digital innovation team. Like several members of staff were involved from each of those areas. And as we move through the kind of the life cycle of the project, I suppose, different parts were more involved at different times. I've been involved for the last couple of years when we were definitely in the period where, the content was digitised, a lot of it had been transcribed. We were then having to get it onto the Lancaster Digital Collections platform. So that's where our digital innovation team have done a huge amount of work there and really have enabled this. In terms of sort of how we've collaborated beyond the library, I mean, like I say, it's been a research project. We've been key partners in this. So we work closely with Professor Sharon Ruston, who's the leader of the project here at Lancaster, and other members of that project team, so other researchers at Lancaster and those other universities. And as I said, it was a citizen science project. It was bringing in volunteers from like around the world. A lot of the work was done via an online forum on a platform called Zooniverse, which is a citizen science platform. Some members of the library team were engaged on there, actually engaging with the volunteers. The nature of the sort of transcribing process is that, people would transcribe content and say, well, I think this is what it says. And you might have other people coming in and saying, oh, actually, I think it's this. It's very collaborative. Yeah. So then, library staff have been involved with that, with both the research team and the volunteers. And while the project has finished in terms of funding, so the AHRC funding came to an end last year, and the collection itself launched in September, so it's all available online. There is still some work ongoing to sort of further develop some of the transcriptions, and Sharon Ruston is sort of doing that via sort of other sorts of ways at the moment. So actually we have some undergraduate student interns at the moment working on the project. So undergraduate students at Lancaster who are going to be doing some work on that. And my colleague Andy in our digital innovation team is working with them to help them actually sort of do the work and do it in a way so that we can take that and then update the content on the platform. So yes, it's been really collaborative, both internally in the library and with all those sorts of different stakeholders as well.
Why do you think projects like this are important for the library?
So our library vision, which is runs from 2021 to 2025, one of the key things in there is that idea of the library moving from a service provider to a partner. And I think this project is a really, really strong example of that. Without overstating our importance, it wouldn't have happened without our involvement, really. And we've talked to people from various parts of the sector who say a lot of the time these type of projects, they can often fail, in terms of the transcription where it might take place, but then turning that into a collection that can actually be publicly shareable is a big piece of work. So I think, it was really, we were a really key part of the project, and I think the project embodies the idea of moving from service provider to partner. As well, I think it's really helped us develop our expertise in a whole range of aspects of digital scholarship. So, as I say, we've been utilising some existing skills in terms of things like metadata and copyright, but it's utilising it in a new way to sort of create a collection, and we've learned a lot from that. And hopefully that's something that we can apply to future projects as well, which I'm sure we will.
You kind of touched on this final question in the end of your last answer, but how has working on this project kind of taught us how we will approach future projects as a library? Yeah,
so we've definitely learned a lot. It has been intensive at times, and I think everyone who's been involved with it has certainly learned a lot about how they would approach something like this again. One key thing is that we'd really make sure that we build dedicated capacity for the library into future research project bids. Because when a research project bid is put together, there's an opportunity to outline the kind of the resource requirements that you need. And I think it's fair to say we didn't fully understand the full amount of work that would be involved at the start, but you learn by going, and I think that's something that we'd definitely be keen to do in future. And we've already got there's a range of different projects at the moment at various stages, which may go forward into being future research bids. And we've been working with those academics to sort of understand their projects and what they're trying to achieve, and if they are submitting a bid to a research council, ensure that resource requirement is built in for the library for us to enable that. So I probably can't say too much about specific projects because, like I say, things sometimes, they can be a long time in development and they may or may not go ahead or they may change. But there's been some researchers been working with who are interested in developing collections of digitised content, and they may be interested in, say, having a feature on the collection where you can use a technique called multispectral imaging, so you can sort of see the content under different sort of light conditions. Okay. Now, if that's something we want to do, that may require a significant bit of development work. Yeah. So we've got to make sure we've got the resource built in to do that. So I think we've learned a lot from it, and I think it's an area in which a whole range of colleagues who are involved have built greater confidence in working in this area, and we've established sort of a presence in this area and shown that we can deliver something like this. And as I say, we've already got a range of other researchers who are interested in working with us on something like this again. So I'm sure this one will inform future projects, but building in that capacity is a key thing we're keen to do next time.
Oh, thank you very much for speaking with us today. It's been really interesting to have this conversation and find out more about the project.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for having me on. For anyone who's interested in finding out more about the project or for actually exploring the notebooks themselves, you can access them on Lancaster Digital Collections, which is at digitalcollections.lancaster.ac.uk. And like I say, the whole collection of notebooks are available, freely open to explore, and there's a whole range of other collections on the site as well.
Thank you very much.
No, thanks a lot.